Hey, hi Pooja.
Hi, Advait.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, good evening to you.
Thank you. So, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. It's a rainy day today
Uh-huh. Same,
here in New Jersey.
same here, same here. I mean, this is not the right time here, but yes, it's raining here as well. All right. Okay. So, shall we start?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Okay. So Pooja and I mean everyone who has joined and who will watch this conversation afterwards, we are going to discuss on fear and insecurity, the two major negative emotions that we all experience, right? And so Pooja, to start with, why don't you explain? What do you do? I mean, what is your expertise and all? Yeah,
Yeah, okay. So first and foremost, thank you for inviting me, Advait. It's always a pleasure to talk to you about these topics.
absolutely.
So
Thank
just
you.
a little bit about myself. I'm a counseling psychologist and I am a master trainer of trainers of EFT, which is Emotional Freedom Techniques. It's also known as tapping.
Right.
And I've been in private practice for nearly 18 years, and I work with
Mm-hmm.
clients who have anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
panic attacks, and
Mm-hmm.
trauma. And I also teach this tool called EFT.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, sure. So, Pooja, as I discussed with you offline, right? I mean, this fear and insecurity. I mean, we will, acknowledge it one by one. Let's start with the fear. And for the betterment of everyone, I'll take my example only. Uh, I mean, I would say I had that fear. Of course, it is reduced now
Mm.
in my profession, in my career. Okay, so and I have experienced that it has taken, it has not helped me, as in, like whenever I wanted to take some major steps, the past experience, I could recall those things, and I could not take the next step. So. What do you want to say about the fear in general? What is that nature of fear? Why do we control? I mean, why do we keep that fear with us? And why don't we overcome?
Mm.
Uh, and how to overcome then,
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Okay, that's a very important question. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I think I'll explain fear a bit. I think it's a very misunderstood feeling,
Mm-hmm.
just like anger.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's take a look at a life where you won't have fear. So let's say if you live without fear, of
Mm-hmm.
course, you would be maybe achieving a lot more, you would be growing a lot more, you would be getting into things that you really want to do. But let's say you don't have fear at all. Do you think there could be a downside to not having fear? Can you think about it? What would happen if you had no fear? And let's say you were walking on the road and crossing the street, for example. What would
Yeah,
happen if there was no fear?
I think you are trying to, talk about the healthy fear, probably.
Yes, I'm just
Right?
trying to bring the attention to the fact that fear by itself is not a toxic emotion,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
By itself, fear basically alerts us to any danger in the immediate environment. So let's say if I'm crossing the road, I'm going to be cautious because I don't want to be hit by the cars. And if I'm, lighting a candle in a wooden house, then obviously I'm going to be careful. I don't want to burn the house down. So these are the healthy aspects of fear because fear is mainly a survival emotion. It
Right.
helps us to survive. And just like any other emotion, it helps us in the maintenance of life and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So emotions by inherently are not negative. It's just that we have labeled them as positive and negative.
Right.
But yes, I
Mm-hmm.
understand that fear can become excessive, and when it becomes excessive, it becomes an unhealthy fear, and people really don't know how to work with that kind of unhealthy fear. That really stops a lot of progress
Right.
and growth in your life.
Right.
So I would just like to bring up the fact that by itself, we cannot be fearless, which means we cannot get rid of fear entirely.
Right.
But we can get rid of fear in specific contexts where we want to achieve more, we want to do things where the
Mm-hmm.
fear is blocking
Right.
us. Yeah, yeah.
Right. And so it's good that, okay, there are two kinds of fear I would understand. One is healthy fear that we all should have. But what about that, fear that we have with us for longer period of time. Of course, that is not helping
Hmm.
us. As I said, it blocks us and doesn't
Hmm.
allow us to make progress in life.
Yeah.
Now, I have acknowledged that fear. How to now, get rid of that fear now?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at fear that's blocking you. Let's say you want to do something and you're not able to do it because you're really afraid
Right.
to attempt that.
Right.
One is you're already aware of what that fear is, right? You
Right.
know that this is what the fear is. Second
Right.
thing is you'll have to see where is the fear coming from. A lot of times the fear comes from the past.
Mm.
So one, like I explained, is fear about something that's really bad that may happen and it alerts you. The second is perceived threat, we call it, in the sense
Mm.
your body is going to think that there is something threatening in the environment,
Right.
which is not there. It's just perceiving threat. It's
Mm-hmm.
thinking, oh, this is bad for me. Even growth can feel like that. Even, let's say, going for a job interview can feel like that. Even becoming
Mm.
visible can feel like that.
Mm.
Taking up a course can feel
Right.
like that because you've had experiences in the past where something happened and that got linked. And then you started getting scared that if I do this, I'm going to experience that again. So the body starts showing
Yeah.
signs of anxiety
Right.
and fear. Anxiety is nothing but fear about the future. We
Mm.
get anxious thinking about the future.
Right.
So in that moment, it's important to see, is it coming from my past? Because if it's coming from my past, I can actually do something about it. There are so many methods now
Mm-hmm.
that you can utilize to really kind of work on that specific fear that is coming from the past.
Mm.
And one of the techniques that I can suggest, which has helped me personally a lot,
Mm-hmm.
is called the comfort zone exercise, which is by this lady called Philippa Perry in her book, How to Stay Sane. And this
Mm-hmm.
I applied many, many years ago when I had really bad fear of public
Oh,
speaking. So I
okay.
couldn't at that time imagine doing a Insta live with you. I would have said no to you, Advait. I was like, no, 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 this is not happening.
Right.
And what I did was I realized it comes from my childhood
Mm-hmm.
because something happened when I had to stand in front of this whole school and say something and I forgot the entire speech.
Right.
And obviously it was a really bad experience and that's what led to this. So what I did is I made this what she calls the comfort zone exercise where you make a circle
Mm-hmm.
and in that circle write down all the things that you're comfortable in doing. Let's say you have a goal. Can you give me a goal? Just any goal that you'd
Uh,
like to achieve?
uh, let's say joining a good company, organization
Okay.
with a better salary and everything.
Yeah, obviously. All right.
So
Okay. So
yes.
let's say that's your goal. So your goal is here and you make a circle here because
Uh-huh.
here you're in your comfort zone. This is your comfort zone. So
Uh-huh.
what are the things that you're currently doing to achieve that goal, but that are absolutely comfortable for you? That falls within that known area.
Okay.
That these are the things we can do and you're comfortable in doing. That's your comfort zone. You list down those things.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
at the edge of that circle, you list
Mm-hmm.
down the things that feel a little bit like you need to push yourself a little bit. Those
Mm-hmm.
you need to do those activities, but you're pushing yourself a little bit, right? To do
Mm-hmm.
those activities. Maybe to look for a better job is something you want to do, but you need to push yourself a bit. But you can still do it. So those will be at the edge of the comfort zone. It's still not outside of your comfort zone where there's a lot of fear. Then
Okay.
you make another circle, which is a list of activities that feel more difficult. And then another circle which feels more difficult. So, what we are doing is we are going from good stress to, let's say, the kind of stress that's difficult to deal with, but we are slowly expanding from here to here. So, instead
Mm-hmm.
of leaping from here to just outside of the comfort zone, which is what is very scary,
Right.
you slowly expand your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that really helped me to kind of become okay with public speaking. I just started with making YouTube videos, just being comfortable in front of the camera, and then doing small workshops, and then larger workshops.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's how,
Okay.
I mean, that's my example.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And like my I'm always curious about why do we keep that fear with us? Sometimes we know that like okay, I don't want to do this because like I had this bad experience in past.
Mm.
But still, when it comes to a threshold, then only we acknowledge, or we try to overcome that fear, right? I mean, it may happen to some people. I had that experience in my life. uh, so I'm curious, why do we keep that fear with us? It must be giving us something, right?
Yeah, I don't think we consciously really want to be afraid of doing things. I think it's more of a subconscious activity that happens because of
Mhm.
our past experiences.
Mhm.
And in some ways, maybe it protects us, although that
Mm.
protection can feel something that's not helping us. But let's say if somebody has been through trauma and they're really scared of doing something because they've had a past experience, that fear is actually in a way protective them.
Mm.
Like we talk about internal family systems where we talk about paths, so there could be a protector part in us
Mm.
because it feels that we are not yet ready to cross that bridge, we are not yet ready to make that transition. And until and unless we worked on those, let's say some of those past experiences that are stopping us, the
Mhm.
fear still keeps us in that space. So I wouldn't say it's completely, it's not a conscious process. I would say that it's
Mhm.
a very subconscious process where it
Right.
can be happening all the time and we're not really aware of it. And once we become aware of it, we can work on it with tools like emotional freedom techniques or NLP and internal family systems, psychotherapy. There is so much that can be done about
Mhm.
these experiences that we can work with.
Okay. But do you think that either of this technique you just mentioned about EFT, or comfort zone technique, and there must be many. So do you think working on this, any of this technique will only help, or fear can go anyway? Like.
I mean, fear, some people just with sheer willpower, they just go ahead and do things and the fear starts dissipating because it's also when you expose yourself to
Mhm.
something which you
Mhm.
thought was really, really going to be
Mhm.
terrifying, but then you go ahead and you do it. And this is not for people who've had trauma, but anything which, in, let's say somebody wants to, um, let's take an example. Let's say you want to do an Insta live. Somebody wants to do an Insta live and they're not comfortable with it, but they still go ahead and do it and they see that, oh, it's not such a big deal. It's not so
Mhm.
terrifying.
Mhm.
Then the fear automatically, because of being exposed to that, starts reducing. So fear can also start reducing once you expose yourself to
Mm.
things that are slightly out of your comfort zone,
Mm.
and then you go ahead and do it and you're like, oh, it's not such a big deal.
Mm.
I mean, there's nothing to be scared of. So exposure is
Mhm.
really important in
Mm.
small doses, not
Right.
suddenly. Yeah, but in small doses it will help you to automatically start reducing that fear.
So basically, you're talking about, we have to face the fears, right? I mean, that's what we generally say, right?
Yeah, yeah. I have a problem with facing the fears just, like head on. I don't think that's an
Mhm.
approach that works for everybody.
Mhm.
But there are some fears you can face head on. Yes,
Mhm.
let's go and ahead and do it. And some fears you need to be careful about not to re-traumatize yourself, because I especially work with trauma survivors. So you don't
Mhm.
want to re-traumatize by just simply diving into something which is just too big to handle.
Mhm.
You need some internal resources, some external resources to be able to handle that new environment that you're in. Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
And Pooja, now if we before we jump to now insecurity, my
Yeah.
last couple of question about fear, especially uh, in general, because you're dealing with many clients, many patients nowadays. Which kind of fear do you see in people? Like, what kind of fear they come up with?
Hmm. There's a lot of fear of judgment, also because of the huge explosion, I would say, on social media. There's a lot of fear of judgment,
Mm.
fear of failure, which has always been there, fear of
Mhm.
being rejected, which keeps people boxed in. They don't reach out, they don't connect with people. The fear of rejection and judgment is pretty big, which I see
Mhm.
in a lot of people, especially in my clientele, people who've had adverse experiences or who are dealing with anxiety. The primary source is that fear of judgment and rejection. Oh, I'll be rejected if I make a new friend, or I'll be abandoned in a relationship. That's where the insecurity also comes in, which we'll talk about that. So I
Mhm.
would say, and also the need to be perfect. I want people wanting to do everything perfectly, because that's just not possible.
Mhm.
Perfection also stops us from growing. too
Right.
much of perfection. You want to do your best, but you can not be doing it perfectly all the time. It's just not possible.
Mm-hmm.
Why
Mm-hmm.
aim for something like
Mm-hmm.
that? So yeah, I see these more or less these kind of fears coming up.
Okay. Okay.
Mm.
And of course, we'll now talk about insecurities. And at the end of this, I would expect, I would request you to, give us a live tapping session of at least 1 minute.
Oh, okay. I didn't think of that. All right. Okay, we'll do it. Fine.
Okay,
Okay.
so yes, about insecurities, especially I'll talk about relationship, right? Because I think most of us have faced this kind of situation where we do not want to let go of person uh, because like fear or insecurity of being alone, that loneliness.
Hmm.
Uh, and of course I have also experienced, and I don't mind sharing this, but yes, if you could talk about insecurity in relationship and how to understand that, how to be aware of that, how to acknowledge, how to accept, and the process.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when we talk about insecurity, we're talking about basically a sense of inadequacy that we have about our self-worth, about our abilities, the inadequacy that even comes up in relationships. And if you trace it back, it actually goes back to your attachment with your caregiver, the way it shows up in relationships, which means the way how we felt while we were growing up. What was our bond with our parents, our primary caregivers?
Mhm.
If that bond was secure, because there's a lot of talk about secure and insecure attachment, right? If the bond was secure, which means if our needs as children were met by
Mhm.
our parents, these are very primary biological needs that every human child has, every human being has, because we cannot do without people. Our brain is wired to be with people, right?
Mhm.
So the need to be soothed, to be held, to be understood, to be valued, if that was to a certain extent met growing up, then when you enter into adult relationships, romantic relationships, then you will be able to handle the relationships
Mhm.
better.
Mhm.
Um, and what can happen is if these needs were not met, then we can have certain attachment styles like avoidant style or anxious style, where what can happen is there could be more insecurity than general. Now, I'm not saying insecurity will never arise in a relationship. It can arise. Jealousy can also arise, and there are healthy and unhealthy forms of jealousy.
Mhm.
Jealousy tells us that, okay, there's something going on in the relationship, so you can take a look at it.
Right.
But unhealthy jealousy is going to make you very clingy, and you will be, all the time spying on your partner and all of that, right? So everybody goes through all
Mhm.
that. But what I'm trying to bring to light is that understanding how our attachment style was, in the sense how we were with our parents, can really help us in seeing how we are with our partners. Are our needs being met by our partners? Are we meeting their needs? Are they meeting our needs? The healthy needs of connection, love, security. And in that, what can happen is your past attachment, the way you were with your parents, can play a role. So it would be good to take a look at that if you
Okay.
want, if a person feels insecure in their relationship.
My two questions.
Hmm.
One, because like I have heard from many people that okay, this kind of insecurities. I mean, you can always go back to your past and childhood.
Hmm.
It is always connected with your parents. So it is always like that, or it could be without that. The relationship with parents also, it could be some totally different kind of insecurity, or it is always attached with parents, and that has generated from childhood.
So I would say both. I would say it's attached to parents, but at the same time, if you have had, let's say, bad relationships in the past, that can also play a role, right? Because it can, if somebody is growing up, they've had really certain relationships that have been that haven't been helpful, where they were cheated, betrayed, then obviously it can give rise to insecurity in the next relationship.
Mhm.
Let's say even if they had a secure attachment style,
Mhm.
a pattern, they had they have a good bond with their parents, but
Mhm.
growing up, how was their, let's say, relationship with friends? How was it with romantic partners? What was going on there? That can also give rise to insecurity, as
Okay.
well as a huge chunk of it is also what we feel about ourselves. right?
Mm-hmm.
How secure am I in myself, in my abilities, what I bring to the relationship? Am I worthy enough
Mm-hmm.
to have a good relationship? So all of this is intertwined. I wouldn't say there is just one thing. All of this plays a role
Okay.
in relationships. Yeah.
Okay. And my second question about, let's say if it is related to parents, then if I have a, insecure relationship because of myself with my girlfriend or wife, whoever it is, right?
Hmm.
Then I should, reflect on my relationship with my mother or with my father.
I would say both.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to go Freudian style here.
Okay.
I'm not into that. I think both. I think our attachment with both our parents, they really matter, not just you mother or father or whoever the primary caregivers were. Some people were um, with their grandparents, so they become their primary caregivers. Whoever was the primary
All right.
caregiver during that bonding phase
Mm-hmm.
is the one that you can look at and see how that relationship was. And there are a lot of therapies. There is something called imago therapy where you look at what are the characteristics that your partner has that reminds you of your mom or dad, the positive and the negative, and that could be attracting you to a potential partner or triggering you because there are those negative and positive traits that your
Mm-hmm.
partner also has. So there are many ways of looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say yes, to answer your question, both the parents.
Okay,
Hmm.
okay. And do you like patients come with you with this kind of issues like okay they have insecurities in the relationship and uh, do they I mean like are they ready to open up? Are they like willing to share these things
Yeah,
nowadays like
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, they
Okay,
are. They are. I mean, I used to be a couples counselor earlier. Now I'm not doing that, but
okay.
a lot of couples used to come, and now even individuals with relationship issues, and
Mm-hmm.
people are more open about these things, and they are willing to work on it, which is, I think, a very big change compared to how it was 20 years ago when I started. Now there's a huge change. People see this as something that can help them
Mm-hmm.
and they don't see it as stigmatizing and they're willing to open up about because they want
Mm-hmm.
to change, they want to have healthier relationships, they want to be healthier, which is a very, very positive change.
Right, 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 right.
Hmm.
Okay, Pooja, I mean, is there anything that you would like to share on fears, insecurities, or probably any other emotions that you want to share with people, uh, which could help them?
I just want to say about emotions that the day I understood, which was many years ago, that emotions are not bad, they're not negative.
Right?
It's just a spectrum, and you need to feel all emotions. And as Brené Brown says, if you're not feeling, not exactly in her words, but you need to be able to feel all the so-called negative feelings to be able to experience the joy, the contentment, all of that, right? You cannot be just selectively feeling joy if you're not open to also acknowledging
Mm-hmm.
the difficult feelings, because I call them difficult feelings because they're difficult to handle. So
Mm-hmm.
my take on this is that emotions are really important, and once we learn how to work with them, they no longer hinder us.
Mm.
We can name them, we can label them, we can work with them, process them, and take the messages that these emotions contain, even fear, anger, jealousy, envy, all of this. And that can really help in making our life productive and in organically, I would say, feeling joy and peace and happiness. It comes with
Mm-hmm.
all of this. It's a full package. So you
Correct.
cannot just take the positive package deal and leave the negative out of it. It comes in a package. It's all together.
Correct.
Yeah. So
Correct.
that's my take on it. Yeah.
You brought a very right point that one should not suppress basically negative
Yes.
emotions
Yes.
itself. Better to express, but in a very managed and organized way.
Exactly, exactly. Not like act on it. We are not even saying just go ahead and blurt everything that you're feeling. No, that's also a very unregulated way of doing it. But
Right.
there is a middle path which one can take is to sit with the feeling, understand what's happening, and then take an action based on it rather than just
Right.
acting on the emotion. Yeah, that's also not healthy.
Correct. Correct. Thank you, Pooja. Thank you so much for sharing this insights. And
You're welcome.
Yes, but before we close this, I would request a quick tapping
All right.
on any topic that you would be okay with. And I would
Okay.
request all the viewers also to they can tap along with us, right?
Yeah, yeah, they can.
Yeah.
Maybe I can invite everyone to just acknowledge any feeling that they're having right now and just do a round of it,
Okay.
a round of tapping on it.
Okay.
So, how about you
Hmm.
just take a moment and take an easy breath in and out, and Advait, you can tap along with me so that
Yes.
you know uh,
Sure.
people watching can follow
Sure.
us. All right, so just taking an easy breath in and out, Advait,
Hmm.
and probably tuning into any feeling that you have right now. You don't have to tell me what it is, but just tuning into any feeling that's coming up for you right now.
Okay.
Okay. All right. And just tapping at the side of the hand. So this is the point. It's called side of the hand point.
Yeah.
All right. So even though I'm feeling this feeling right now,
Even though I'm feeling this feeling right now,
it's okay to feel it.
it's okay to feel that.
Even though I have this feeling right now,
Even though I have this feeling right now,
I'm acknowledging this feeling.
I'm acknowledging this feeling.
Even though I have this feeling right now,
Even though I have this feeling right now,
I give myself permission to stay with this feeling.
I give myself permission to stay with this feeling.
All right. This feeling.
This feeling.
I have this feeling
I
right now.
have this feeling right now.
Okay, so I'm not talking about what these points are. I assumed that everyone would know, but I'll just tell you what the points are. Side of the eye, this feeling that
Yeah.
I have.
This feeling that I have.
Under eye, this feeling that I have.
This feeling that I have.
Under nose, this feeling that I have.
This feeling that I have.
Under lip, this feeling that I have.
This feeling that I have.
Collarbone, this feeling that I have.
This feeling that I have.
Underarm, this feeling that I have.
Feeling that I have.
And just one more round. I'm acknowledging this feeling.
I'm acknowledging this feeling.
All right, tapping a little longer at the top of the head.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now eyebrow points. I'm acknowledging this feeling.
I'm acknowledging this feeling.
Side of the eye. I'm giving myself permission to feel it.
I'm giving myself permission to feel it.
Under eye. I'm acknowledging this feeling.
I'm acknowledging this feeling.
Under nose. It's okay to feel what I feel right now.
It's okay to feel what I'm feeling right now.
Chin point. And it's okay to have some compassion for myself
And it's okay to have some compassion for myself
while I have this feeling.
while I have this feeling.
I'm acknowledging this feeling with compassion.
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 All right, just taking an easy breath in and out. What's going on with you? Was that okay?
Every time I do tapping, I feel so calm that my voice becomes low, but I have to consciously, increase the volume for this conversation. But,
Yeah,
but
it's
at
such
the,
a calming tool, right? And if you just acknowledge the feelings with compassion,
yeah,
that's it. I
yeah,
mean, all they need is to be heard in that moment. And then, yes, there could be more stuff coming up. But it's good that you're calm.
yeah.
I mean, that's what we need.
Of course. And one more thing that I always feel, like while doing tapping is that, I after doing tapping, I see with, like brighter, I can see clearly sometimes, it has happened to me many times. So
Yeah,
yeah, and but thank you for this quick session, and
you're
it has
welcome.
helped, of course. I mean, once people will watch this, they will also feel the same. But yes, I want to share this thing. I mean, Pooja, you are a master trainer of trainers in EFT, so
Yeah,
I would recommend guys you to reach out to Pooja for any kind of issue that you have. I mean, I'm sure she'll be able to help you. So I think someone is messaging Palette Priyam Bada. Thank you so very much. Beautiful session. See,
thank you.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you so much, Pooja, for your time. And yes, I'm grateful to you. My talk show name is Extreme Gratitude, and I'm grateful
Okay.
to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.
Lovely.
Okay.
It's a lovely talk show, very good concept. And thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure being here
Thank you.
and talking to you.
Thank you for your time. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Take care,
Thank
Advait.
you.
Bye.
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 Bye.